What if your gift of feeling others' emotions is secretly destroying you? The INFJ empath isn't just sensitive, they are a vessel for others' chaos, carrying emotional pain that isn't even theirs. This gift sets them apart, but it comes with a hidden cost. For generations, people have admired empathy as a rare superpower, yet few see the toll it takes behind closed doors. The world expects you to be the healer, the quiet anchor, the one who absorbs pain without complaint. But every act of compassion leaves a lasting mark, and over time, those invisible wounds accumulate. So what makes the INFJ empath different, and how far does this burden go? The answer is darker and more powerful than most ever realize. Before we start, please hit the like button, comment, and subscribe so you won't miss any of our weekly deep dives into the world of personality types. And if you are looking to achieve a deeper understanding of yourself and your personality type, click the link in the comments to take our favorite free personality test. The archetype of the INFJ empath, a vessel for shadows. To understand the INFJ empath, you must look beyond surface-level compassion. This isn't just about being sensitive or reading a room, it's about serving as a vessel for shadows. Jungian psychology describes INFJs as psychic conduits, absorbing not only the emotions of others, but also the darker, unprocessed fragments of those emotions. You don't just sense pain, you become the bridge through which it travels. It's a role that's both haunting and involuntary. Imagine Jung's dream of a blind woman standing on a bridge, overwhelmed by the voices of countless souls passing beneath her. She can't see what's coming, but she feels it all. The ache, the chaos, the sorrow. That's the INFJ archetype. A living conduit, absorbing the world's shadows without ever asking for them. Does this echo your experience? It's not simply kindness that drives you to carry others' burdens. For the INFJ empath, it's instinct. You embody what Jung called the wounded healer, unconsciously taking on the emotional debris others leave behind. You walk into a room and without a word, your mind starts to collect the tension, the grief, and the hidden resentments. You become the invisible filter, the silent bridge. Ever walk away from a conversation feeling heavier than when you entered? That's not a coincidence. Your dominant function, introverted intuition, enables you to see beneath the surface. You notice motives, spot patterns, and sense what's unspoken. Introverted intuition gives you that uncanny ability to read the pain behind a smile, to know what someone is feeling before they say a word. But here's the catch. Introverted intuition also leaves you open to emotional undercurrents that slip past logic. You're tuned to the invisible, but you may not realize when you've absorbed something that isn't yours. How often have you wondered, is this feeling even mine? Then there's extroverted feeling, your auxiliary function. Extroverted feeling makes you deeply attuned to the emotional needs of others. It's why people confide in you, why you're the one they turn to when everything falls apart. But extroverted feeling is outward facing. It's designed to maintain harmony, often at the expense of your own needs. You might think you're helping from a place of strength, but extroverted feeling can cause you to overlook your boundaries. When was the last time you asked yourself, what do I need right now? The result is a psychic sponge effect. You become a blank canvas, stained by the colors of everyone else's emotions. The sadness, frustration, or rage you carry might not even be yours, but it feels real and it lingers. You might blame yourself for feeling depleted, never realizing you've been holding someone else's sorrow all along. Does that sound familiar? Over time, the cost of this unconscious absorption is steep. The boundaries between your feelings and others begin to blur. You may find yourself lost, struggling to answer the question, who am I beyond what others need from me? It's like being a mirror in a cathedral of mirrors, reflecting everyone else's pain, but never catching your reflection. Too much weight, and even the most substantial mirror cracks. Jung warned that carrying the shadows of others can lead to intense inner conflict. For INFJs, this doesn't just mean exhaustion, it means the slow erosion of identity. Your desires become background noise. You learn to ignore them, to silence your own needs for the sake of others. The danger is subtle, but real. Unless you become conscious of this archetypal role, you risk being consumed by it. The first step is recognizing the line between what's yours and what isn't. Only then can you begin to reclaim your sense of self. But what happens when the very compassion that sets you apart starts to turn against you? When does the drive to heal become a force that threatens to break you from within? When compassion becomes self-destruction. Compassion for the INFJ empath isn't just a feeling, it's a force that shapes your life. But what happens when that force grows unchecked, consuming the very person it was meant to empower? This is where compassion quietly transforms into self-destruction. It starts with the best intentions. You sense someone's pain, and your instinct is to help, to heal, to make things right. Yet soon, this desire becomes a compulsion, a gravitational pull toward chaos and wounded souls. You begin to believe deep down that you're the only one who can save them. But at what cost to yourself? Extroverted feeling gives you a finely tuned sensitivity to the emotional needs of others. You know what someone needs before they ask, sometimes before they even realize it themselves. This gift, however, comes with a shadow. Your boundaries soften, then vanish altogether. When someone you care about suffers, you start to feel that their happiness, or even their survival, is your responsibility. Their storms become yours to weather, and slowly you stop asking where your needs fit in. Compassion without boundaries turns into a compulsion to fix, to rescue, to carry burdens that aren't yours. Over time, this compulsion shapes the very fabric of your relationships. You're drawn to those carrying invisible wounds, people whose pain is raw, chaotic, sometimes dangerous. The archetype of the wounded healer takes over. You pour your heart and soul into others, hoping that by mending their brokenness, you might finally soothe something unspoken within yourself. The urge to heal becomes a way of avoiding your shadows. Instead of naming your unmet needs, you project all your energy outward, losing yourself in the process. But here's the truth few want to admit. Sometimes, rescuing others isn't about them at all. It's a way to escape your pain, to avoid facing the parts of yourself you'd rather keep hidden. In the most toxic relationships, this dynamic becomes a push and pull. You love deeply, but that love gets tangled with your need to be needed. If the person you're saving doesn't heal, or if their pain overwhelms you, you burn out. Yet leaving feels impossible. If you're not the healer, who are you? Picture the INFJ in a relationship where caretaking becomes a way of life. It starts with small acts, soothing a partner's fears, absorbing their anger, shielding them from the world. Over time, you convince yourself this is love, that sacrificing your needs is proof of your devotion. But every time you put yourself second, your identity erodes. Slowly, you start mistaking their happiness for your worth. What you call compassion becomes captivity, and you're shackled by invisible chains forged from your empathy. This is where boundaries blur beyond recognition. You feel their anxiety as your own, their sorrow as a weight on your chest, their anger simmering in your gut. You tell yourself it's natural, that this is just what it means to care. But each time you absorb someone else's suffering, another link is added to the chain. The emotional weight grows, and you start to lose your sense of self. The psychological toll is immense. Burnout creeps in, not the kind a good night's sleep can fix, but a more profound exhaustion that seeps into your bones. You wake up heavy, unsure why. Your identity fragments, and you struggle to remember who you are outside of others' needs. At your lowest, you realize you've built a life on self-sacrifice, not love. And the most challenging part, no one asked you to. Jung called this archetypal possession, when you unconsciously become a host for someone else's shadow. Their pain becomes your burden, and you feed the cycle without knowing it. This isn't weakness. It's a misplaced sense of responsibility, a belief that it's your job to pull the unwilling from the depths, even if it drags you under. There's a lesson here, hidden in an old tribal story. A dreamer once carried the pain of many spirits until a wise elder taught them to name each one. Only by naming, by discerning what belonged to them and what did not, could they break free from possession. For the INFJ empath, discernment is the key. Compassion without boundaries isn't compassion at all, it's codependence. Recognizing the line between helping and losing yourself is the first step to reclaiming your soul. But why do we chase wounded souls even when it costs us everything? Let's find out next. The sacred path to sovereignty. The sacred path to sovereignty begins with a single radical act, reclaiming your center. For the INFJ empath, this isn't about building walls or shutting out the world. It's about learning to stand in your light, even as you witness the darkness around you. Jung called this individuation, the process of becoming whole, not by rejecting your sensitivity, but by anchoring it in the core of who you are. At its heart, individuation means stepping out from the shadows of others' emotions and finally seeing yourself. Imagine standing in a cathedral lined with mirrors, each one reflecting someone else's sorrow, anger, or hope. You walk the aisles, absorbing every reflection until the question hits, which one is me? This is the silent crisis of the INFJ empath, losing your image in a hall of borrowed pain. The journey to sovereignty is about finding your true reflection, even when every mirror begs you to carry a different story. Boundaries are the sacred circle you draw around your soul, not to keep others out, but to keep yourself intact. Think of it like this. A boundary isn't a fortress. It's a sanctuary. It's the quiet moment when you say, I feel you, but I do not become you. You can stand before someone's anguish and offer warmth, but you refuse to bleed for them. This isn't detachment, and it isn't coldness. It's what Jung called warmth with a spine. You hold space for others, but you don't let their storms flood your foundation. But before these boundaries can hold, you need discernment. For years, the line between your feelings and everyone else's was a blur, soaked up and internalized, until you forgot what was yours. The work begins with a pause. Each time a heavy emotion hits, you ask, is this mine? Sometimes the answer is no. Sometimes the ache in your chest or the dread in your stomach belongs to someone else, a shadow you picked up along the way. This simple question is the start of sovereignty. Yet discernment is only the surface. True transformation demands what Jung described as the descent into your underworld. Shadow work. Here, you confront the parts of yourself you've exiled in favor of feeling for everyone else. You ask, what wound am I trying to heal by rescuing others? What part of me needs to be the savior? This isn't easy. It means facing your own unmet needs, the pain you've buried, and the patterns you repeat. But naming these shadows robs them of their power. You stop being ruled by what you can't see. As you move through this process, you start to shift. Instead of being a sponge, absorbing everything, you become a vessel. A vessel holds what it chooses. You witness pain, but you don't become it. You stand in the fire with someone, but you don't get burned. Your empathy transforms from a liability into a quiet strength. You learn that genuine compassion isn't about merging, it's about presence. You can say, I see your wound, but I do not house it within my psyche. Over time, your sensitivity becomes less of an open wound and more of a source of wisdom. You stop shrinking under the weight of others' needs. You become the person who illuminates the path, not by carrying someone else's pain, but by showing them how to hold their own. You realize the difference between saving and inspiring. You protect your own sacred space, and in doing so, your empathy becomes a rare gift, one that uplifts without consuming. This is the essence of the INFJ empath's power, to feel deeply, to love fiercely, and yet remain rooted in your own identity. When you are anchored in self-awareness, the world's chaos no longer drains you. Instead, it becomes the backdrop for your transformation. Your wounds become symbols of resilience, and your presence becomes a source of clarity, not confusion. But the path doesn't end here. Sovereignty is a daily practice, a commitment to wake up and ask, am I feeling or fusing? Am I healing or controlling? Am I present or performing? These aren't doubts. They are signs of growth. They mean you're no longer living on autopilot, letting empathy dictate your life. Now, you wield it with intention. So, once you've forged these sacred boundaries, what emerges when INFJs step into their full power? True power for the INFJ empath lies not in absorbing every emotion, but in transforming your sensitivity into wisdom and self-mastery. Your gift isn't meant to drown you. It's intended to help you see, connect more deeply, and stand resilient in a world that rarely understands such depth. Reflect on your boundaries. Where do others end and you begin? Which part of this journey spoke to you most? Naming your shadows or building sacred boundaries? Share below. Your voice matters here. If this resonated, like and subscribe to join our community of conscious empaths. If you want to continue the journey to understanding yourself or an INFJ in your life, click either of the following videos, where we continue to unlock the secrets of the INFJ personality type.